Clinging to a gum tree, her car submerged in a torrent roiling around her, a woman and her rescuer.
She'd sort of just gotten out of the car and I sort of helped her up onto a log because she was struggling for strength and fairly weak.
Mitch Smith dove into floodwaters at Elmore after seeing the woman in her 70s struggling to stay afloat, strapping her to a branch to save her life. The pair was stranded for an hour before emergency services hauled them to safety.
If it was my grandma in the car, I'd hope someone would do the same thing.
After record levels of rain swelled the Campaspe River, Rochester in central Victoria has once again been inundated, just 15 months after major flooding last ravaged the town. Some are trying to find a silver lining.
It can't go wrong. Got the bench, having a bit of lunch.
Yeah, what do you make of all this behind you?
I'll make the best of it.
Yeah, can't go wrong.
Life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
But for the weary, it was a night of anguish, dredging up memories of what they lost not long ago.
No, can't talk. She feels lost and really flat and upset. It's quite traumatic to go through it all again. She lost so much last time.
It's just taken there.
For months, Meg and Gary housed flood victims at their bed and breakfast. Last year, floodwaters lapped at the veranda, but this year it only blanketed their backyard.
A lot of people are on just nervous breakdown point.
Yeah.
And I think it will tip a lot of people over the edge
again.
They'll go because
if it's affected them.
We'll even seeing the water come up.
Yeah, there's enough. Enough fright in that
to tip people over the edge.
Since Sunday, Victoria's State Emergency Service has responded to more than 1,700 calls for help across the region, and there have been 52 rescues. Authorities are once again urging people not to drive through flooded roads. Here in Rochester, the floodwaters are easing. The focus now turns east to places like Shepparton and Mooroopna, where there are flood warnings on the Goulburn River.
Where we're expecting to see a high and moderate flooding occurring overnight Wednesday into Thursday. So we are asking communities in those areas to be alert to the potential for road closures and the potential for overland flooding in some of those areas.
A city preparing for the worst. Mike Lorrigan, ABC News, Rochester.
While Rochester and Shepparton are bracing for the worst, towns further south started the massive flood clean-up. The state government has committed financial aid and support for people impacted by the floods.
For Gornong resident Caitlin Smith, the long clean-up has only just begun. This was her backyard last night after record levels of rain fell on the north-central Victorian town.
It came up so quick. Within 15 minutes it went from our backyard to coming through our doors.
It's a devastating blow just a fortnight after Christmas.
The worst thing was seeing my son's toys float around and just thinking that, and we've got a pile of Christmas presents that are still over there where the tree was. It was heartbreaking really.
Across the state, residents are picking up the pieces. Joseph Ettier says he lost everything after the Yea River burst its banks.
Everything was floating, all my papers destroyed, my photos, personal photos, funeral for my mum, for my dad, all gone. All my personal stuff is destroyed.
In Seymour, it was an anxious wait for residents and businesses already scarred by the floods just over a year ago.
This year, if it had gone inside, that would have been the end. I wouldn't have continued on. I just could not do it again.
While the Vecchio family's winery was spared, about 20 properties around Seymour were flooded after the Goulburn River peaked at 6.8 metres just below the major flood level. Today, the Premier paid the town a visit ahead of another expected peak.
6,500 sandbags were moved through here over the course of yesterday, and that's just here at Seymour. And when you consider that effort is being replicated right across these flood-affected communities, that gives you a sense of the scale of that community response.
While the mop-up here in central Victoria has been aided by clear skies, residents fear the next major flood emergency is just around the corner.
Everything was already soaking wet, dams were full, creeks were already running. This drop of rain, it was just enough to overwhelm the system.
Emergency relief payments up to $560 per adult and $280 per child are available for flood-affected residents. Laura Mayers, ABC News, Gornong.